Hello YouTube, here's a quick overview of all of the settings options and some little quirks and tips within Jelly Bean, the AOSP version. So if you're watching this a few months from now, there's probably a bunch of skin versions, but this is what Google wants you to see, and I hope it's what you see. If you see anything else, you're probably not getting the best end of the bargain. So if you're coming from gingerbread, you're going to notice a lot of changes. Mostly aesthetic, and actually it's been so long you're probably going to notice a lot of speed changes. Things are very smooth now in Jelly Bean. If you're coming from Ice Cream Sandwich, a lot of the stutter is gone. I wouldn't say anything opens faster, it just opens at a better frame rate, I guess you would say. When you scroll side to side, you don't see any more hitch. When you open up this, you don't see any hitch. When you press the recent Windows tab, it opens right away. So as far as the settings go, it depends kind of what you're coming from as far with respect to will things be different. If you're coming from Jelly Bean, you'll notice that things are kind of segregated much more. In Jelly Bean, if I recall correctly, it's just a big list of all of your setting options. Now you're looking at a few different groups: wireless and networks, the actual device, your personal stuff, accounts right underneath that, which can kind of be lumped in together, and then system. So under Wi-Fi, pretty standard, but if you don't know, hit up Advanced. This is where you're going to set your sleep policy. Do you want to always keep Wi-Fi on? Do you only want to keep Wi-Fi on when it's plugged in and the screen's on? Or do you want Wi-Fi to turn off as soon as you sleep your device? From what I found, you can keep Wi-Fi on all the time, at least on this Nexus 7, and it's really not going to hurt your battery life too much. I'll show you the battery life later on, but it hasn't turned out to be an issue, and it hasn't been an issue for quite some time. Bluetooth, pretty standard options. Data usage, again, if you're coming from Ice Cream Sandwich, this is going to look very familiar. If you're coming from Gingerbread, this is fucking awesome. You can finally see how much data each app is using. I've had this for 24 hours. I was extremely surprised to see that. Let me zoom in here a bit. Google Play Magazines has taken up 375 megabytes of data. I only downloaded about 5 magazines. So let me just real quickly open up one magazine. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess I can see the amount of pages when I scroll all the way. Jesus. There's a lot of pages. Alright, maybe it is. Okay, so anyway, you get the point. I got 1, 2. You can tell by this little, if it's blue, that means it's downloaded, it's pinned. 1, 2. 2? Really? I only have 2 downloaded, and I got 375 megabytes worth of data. That's a lot. You get surprised by those kind of things, and if you're on a cellular network, that could really be eating up. It'll also tell you foreground versus background data usage. And so the foreground is when the app's open, when you're actually looking at the Play Magazine app, how much is it downloaded, and the background is when you've pressed that home key, is it still downloading anything else? And it's turned out I've downloaded 140 megabytes of data in the background. In the Play Store, yeah, 217 versus 230. So this is pretty neat. I'd actually like to do a test one time to find out clear data versus on YouTube and see how much maybe a 10-minute HD video takes up. Because I can imagine YouTube's compressing, so hopefully it's not that much. But yeah, so the data usage is nice. If you're on a mobile device, you can actually restrict the data usage as well. Turns out I have a mobile hotspot. Select the Wi-Fi networks which are mobile hotspots apps can be restricted from using these networks when in the background. So this seems to be kind of a hybrid of what you find in Ice Cream Sandwich, which, without getting into the menus, Ice Cream Sandwich, you can restrict background data usage by setting a limit. So for instance, I would set somewhere on here a 2 GB per month data limit, and then I could tell it, I could open up Google Magazines and have an option in here to say restrict background data. So that's really nice. It probably saves a lot of battery for those poorly designed apps. So there was the data usage. In the more section, I got airplane mode, VPN, and NFC. The Nexus 7 does come with NFC. I've got it turned off because nobody has NFC. And even if they did, I don't want to share contacts through NFC. Just email me, bro. Sound, pretty straightforward, except Nexus 7 specific. There's one big, giant, glaring option that is not there. Haptic feedback. There's no haptic feedback, no vibration on the Nexus 7, which it's a few weeks after the release. I'm surprised I didn't hear anybody say anything about that, because I really do like it and I do miss it. But it's not here, and I'll live. Display is pretty straightforward. I'm using the automatic brightness, and I'm not sure if I'm using cyanogen on my phone. Ice Cream Sandwich, yeah, basically. And when I have automatic brightness turned on, I can still slide this and basically turn off automatic brightness. I mean, it's one of these tiny things that you only notice when you had it and then lose it, but now I have to turn off automatic brightness to drag my brightness bar. So I keep that on. Sleep and font size in there. Storage. It's going to be important if you're considering an 8 GB Nexus 7 or possibly any 8 GB Jelly Bean device. It only came with 6 gigs available. I was a bit surprised that, especially nowadays, where before it was, you know, from what I understand, apps were kind of, if this is an 8 GB device and only 6 are available, then the apps were part of that too that are not available. Well, I guess now, I'm not sure, somebody smarter than me is going to be able to explain it. 2 GB is taken up by Jelly Bean. I can't imagine that's true though. I'm not sure what that's all about, but I only have 6 gigs available for files I want to transfer, apps I want to install, etc. Open up the battery. Here's another thing coming from Gingerbread that is nice. A nice little battery graph here, and here you can see this is sleep. I mean, this thing is taking up nothing while it's sleeping. If you have any device that's Wi-Fi only, or you turn off mobile data on a cell phone, you're going to be chewing up maybe, I don't know, 10% a day while you're sleeping. It's barely anything. The devices can last forever as long as they're sleeping with no cellular data. That's the big catch. And then as soon as you turn it on, you can see I'm falling off a cliff here. And these little bumps are either going to be YouTube or maybe a Google video talk. Apps. This is all pretty much the same as all Android versions. It's just a slightly different layout. With a couple of, I should say, let me go back. I got a couple of key changes in the apps. If you're coming from Ice Cream Sandwich, there's one major change. If you're coming from Gingerbread, there are 2 major changes. So let me go to the all apps. First, you're going to see right away email down at the bottom. You got this text right here that says disabled. Now, starting in Ice Cream Sandwich, Google allowed you to disable completely apps that you were not using. So a lot of people who rooted their phones may have had to use Titanium Backup to freeze applications, or maybe you were digging in with a file manager or ADB and actually pulling those apps that you don't use, like email. I never used that. I used Gmail, but email was always running. And I remember in Froyo and Eclair, email's always running in the background. And, you know, I'm just, paranoid may not be the right word, but it's using some processor power and memory that was being wasted. Now you can actually disable it completely. So it's basically, if you root, it's like you removed the application entirely. It's awesome. It's awesome. So you can disable it. A new feature in Ice Cream Sandwich, or excuse me, a new feature in Jelly Bean. So there aren't too many new features. It's really just Google Now and Speed. But one of the new features is a show notifications option. You can see that right there. So here's a Twitter application. Let's say I was too lazy to dig into this Twitter app's menu settings and didn't find or couldn't find the option to turn off notifications. Well, now luckily it's in a really simple place. Open up your apps menu from the main system menu, pull up any app, and you're going to have this show notifications. That's going to be great for all of these assholes that run with the AirPush, I think it's AirPush, advertisement delivery. So right here, if it was some dick who developed an app that was basically solely to feed me advertisements, I'd have an ad right here. And you couldn't get rid of it, and you couldn't find out what app it was coming from. But now you can if I had that app, if I had a notification, which... send myself something right now. You'd basically be able to turn off notifications for that without even having to know what application opened it. So let me show you this. I'm going to send myself an email. I'll actually get a chance to look at the notification drawer. So here you can see I got my email. This all looks pretty standard so far. Drag this down. Now if I held down here, I'm going to see app info. So let's say this was one of those ads that was showing up. I could hold down app info. It's going to take me in this case to Gmail. I got these two options that I never had, and then Gingerbread, disable or show notifications, and I could turn either of those off and never get another Gmail notification, or just completely disable the app. So that's awesome. I would be careful about disabling certain apps. You don't want to disable basically anything that any Google application you shouldn't disable. Google Talk, Gmail, probably Google Plus, Google Now, things like that you don't want to be messing around with. But email, I've used Android long enough to know you're okay disabling email. So that's a nice little feature here. Location services, that's pretty straightforward. Security is going to be straightforward. Now you got the options for your lock screen, so we could set up the face unlock, but I'd only use it for this video and never again because it takes longer than it has to. Device administrators, you can assign administrators. I've had to do that once when I was trying to install a certificate to get work email. Allow unknown sources, so just in case you're looking for that, that's going to be in security. Allow unknown sources to install any APKs that you downloaded outside of the Google Play Store. Backup and reset, I would suggest, checking off all these options. As soon as I booted this tablet up the first time, all of the apps from this Jelly Bean device started downloading here. So luckily it wasn't every app I installed, which I think they were doing with Ice Cream Sandwich. I'm not positive. it was only apps that I had installed on a device of that operating system. So it only installed, I only have about 20 apps, and it only installed those 20 apps. I only have 20 apps on my Galaxy Tab. It only installed those when I booted up this device. So here you got your Google accounts. Let me show you how many Google accounts you have to sync now. I mean, that's a lot more than people are used to seeing, because now you're syncing all of Google Play. Bunch of Google Play, Google Plus. Google Plus is separate from instant upload. You're syncing Wallet. I'm not sure what Wallet would be syncing. Chrome bookmarks and all that. They also added a few other settings options in here. Maps and latitude options. You can go straight to these options from the main settings menu. You can also get to these same options from the Maps setting menu. Your search options, which these are coming from, actually, these are not from Google now. These you have to get through from the main settings menu. Location, Google Plus, those are pretty straightforward. Date and time, straightforward. Accessibility. Auto rotate screen. When you get your Nexus 7, this little icon up here, this little thing that looks like it's a vibration icon, it's turned off by default, or it's turned to lock by default, from what I recall. So you can see up top, that button's it's a little lock sign. That's how it came shipped. You got to unlock it to be able to get the auto rotate. And now they actually have touch and hold delay. So everybody knows with Android there's a lot of press and hold to pull up different functions. And now you can set that delay. Short, medium, or long. Enhanced web accessibility. Do you want to install scripts from Google that make their website content more accessible? Yeah, why not? Developer options here. Desktop backup password. Not familiar with this. Don't know how that works. Screen awake. This is basically saying anytime it charges, it's going to keep the screen on. You want to probably keep that off unless you're doing development. And most of these are pretty straightforward, or stuff that most people don't care about. Show touches. This is like when you're watching these Google I/O conferences and all you see is the screen and this little dot running around the screen. They're just displaying this, they're just outputting this display to a screen and showing you that dot. So if you ever wanted to turn that on for some weird reason, you do that in the developer options. Pointer location. Here's a crazy one. Bam. Alright, and you can see it's kind of tracing what I'm doing. Again, this is the developer options menu. Most people are never going to want to mess around with this. Except here, these three options, window animation, transition animation, animation duration. These are three options that you may want to mess around with. This is the animation, so I'm going to go back. That's an animation, what it just did there. It popping up and kind of zooming in, that was an animation. So it's hard to tell that was an animation, but if I say, I think that's a transition animation, let me say that's 10 times. Now you can really tell how slow that is. It's going super slow. Transition animation set to 10 times, so 10 times what its normal animation scale is. So I'm going to go half. I'd rather be quick. So if you want to speed up things just a titch, you can change that to half. Window animations, that's going to be, I want to open up, this. That's a window animation. So I'm going to set that to half. Animation duration scale. We'll set that to 10 times and see what happens. Nothing. I'm not sure what then the difference between animation duration and animation scale is, to be honest. But I'm going to set them all to half, because I know the half is going to be faster than 10. Nothing else here that you're really going to fuck around with. And then about tablet. So again, a lot of this is just going to be a different layout if you're coming from gingerbread. If you're coming from ice cream sandwich, it's all going to seem very familiar. So there's the settings options, all of them. I do an in-depth review of pretty much everything regarding Jelly Bean and the Nexus 7, so keep an eye out for those videos, subscribe, like the video, I'll leave a comment. If you have questions, I'll get back to you. So